What time is it supposed to kick off? 6?
1:30.
1:30? Huh, is this for or against January 6th? Asking for a friend.
I'm against January 6th, if I have to keep coming here. Let there be audio.
It's not one thing, it's another thing.
I don't need this layer in there.
Every pocket I've got stuff squirreled away.
Right,
and
exactly.
Yeah, that time of year.
And then you're like, too many
I
damn
know.
pockets.
I know. Don't I know it?
Hi.
Hello, hello.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm so happy to see you.
Hey, Bill. That's the thing, bud. How you doing? Good, good.
Want some back,
Yeah,
some backstop?
you were the co-sponsor, thank you.
Am I the only co-sponsor in the room?
Yeah, yeah. And
Sorry.
Yeah, you.
Hi, I'm Maria. Thank you for coming.
That's the Channel 7.
Thank you so much.
Hello.
I'm Maria.
did you read the
It's good to see you. I didn't
governor's
see you on healthcare.
statement?
No. Yes.
Yeah, I'm gonna read that. It's right here.
Yeah, the map
This is what the
there.
bill
You've read it already?
directed her to do, yeah. Yeah.
Hi, Scott from Channel 6.
I just got here.
Oh, good. Do you have everything you need?
I do.
Hi, what?
Oh, thank you.
Beautiful.
I am just here. I am. Oh. Chris, you need to
Sam,
call me
Amberina, yeah,
when you
co-sponsor?
No, but you're gonna.
I have to run to work, so
Okay.
somewhere
All right.
I have to.
All right, it's you and me, Bill. Okay.
You
Hey,
guys got this.
name 2 better candidates.
If you need a personal story, I can tell the story of what I went through of preparing for it.
All right. Well, thank you for attending. This morning, Governor Janet Mills proclaimed January 6th as a day to remember, and I'm going to read that proclamation first. Okay. State of Maine Proclamation. Whereas on January 6, 2021, an insurrection at the U.S. Capitol attempted to disrupt the certification of the 2020 presidential election results. And whereas 140 police officers were criminally assaulted by rioters, including one officer who suffered 2 strokes after being attacked and tragically passed away the following night, and 4 officers who have since died by suicide. And whereas the rioters scaled walls, smashed windows, broke into offices, and stole items in the Capitol, which resulted in approximately $1.5 million in damages. And whereas, thanks to the heroic efforts of law enforcement, the joint session of Congress reconvened and voted to certify the winner of the 2020 election in a display of courage and resilience. Whereas, although the election results were certified on that day 5 years ago, we must continue to condemn all threats to our democracy, defend the Constitution, and never forget the January 6, 2021 attack on our Capitol to subvert the will of the American people. And whereas 1 MSRA 150-W designates January 6th of each year as a day to remember and requires the governor to issue a proclamation annually honoring the resilience of democracy. Now, therefore, be it resolved that I, Janet T. Mills, Governor of the state of Maine, do hereby proclaim January 6, 2026 as a day to remember in Maine, and I urge all citizens to use the day as an opportunity to discuss and reflect on the values of democracy, civic responsibility, and the rule of law. In testimony whereof I have caused the great seal of the state to be hereunto affixed, given under my hand at Augusta this 2nd day of January 2026. Signed, Shanna Bellows and Janet T. Mills, Governor. So I wanted to thank Governor Mills for that statement. It did lay out plenty of the facts and the consequences of what happened on that day, January 6, 2001. And as the sponsor of this bill, my intent was to preserve the memory of that day and what happened as told through the recollections of Maine's congressional delegation and their staff. It turns out that Maine doesn't have the capacity to do that, not through statute at least. We must all rely on our government, the media, and historians to choose to preserve and tell us. We all know what we saw that day. We collectively watched a complete lack of respect for our Constitution, our Congress, and our democracy. As a country, we watched our government turn on itself through the action and inaction of the person entrusted to defend it. We saw a gallows erected on the National Mall and a lynch mob assemble to witness justice exacted for their mistaken beliefs. U.S. citizens from all over the country were told that the election had been stolen. They believed that lie. They smashed barriers, windows, and Capitol police officers. We watched the American flag, the symbol of our country, flying alongside rebel flags and swastikas, 2 certain symbols of hatred. We watched them chase police officers, men and women in blue, through the Capitol hallways, calling for Pelosi, calling for Pence. Their noose is waiting. We waited for federal reinforcements to show up. For hours instead, we saw tweets from a coward. In the aftermath, we saw our Capitol in shambles. We watched the rioters who destroyed our property, escorted orderly out of the Capitol, allowed to go home. 5 years ago, we allowed the head of our country, who refused to give up what was ours, a peaceful transfer of power. On January 6, 2021, a sitting U.S. president turned his followers on our government. That day, it was apparent as could be. He was denounced. Everyone knew he did it, but many who could do something to stop it didn't. They allowed it to happen. We then watched a trial without evidence allowed. He and his conspirators were allowed to go home. Many of the traitors that day are still in office. Every one of Maine's congressional delegation who was there that day is still there. They each have a story to tell. They each know what happened and who did it. One of our senators who voted to excuse Trump's concerning actions is still in office and running again. 4 years later, still whining about having lost, spouting lies to keep his base angry about a black man as president and a black woman one heartbeat away from the U.S. presidency, pardoned most of those who destroyed the veneer of justice. We let him do it. Now, 5 years later, we're still debating over what happened that day, January 6th, a day to remember. Of all we saw take place that day and in the days to follow, what are we being told to remember? What exactly should we remember? What should we be reminded of? For all elected officials, then and today, we must remember that we aren't sent here to raise funds in a fight for our political careers. We aren't sent here to defend our party leaders and colleagues guilty of crimes. We are sent here in DC to fight for the rights and protections of our constituents. If in that fight we aren't re-elected, so be it. We must do our best. Today, again, it is our responsibility to defend our nation from tyranny. For our media outlets, regurgitating lies told often enough, stop being stenographers. Be bold in your questions, be brave in your investigations, and be the actual truth tellers in this country's moment of shame. We need your help to preserve our nation. We need you to tell us the unvarnished truth, please. Now, what should American citizens remember of that day? Remember the nation we grew up with. Remember the times we united in support of our neighbors, here and globally. Remember the names of those who died defending our nation throughout our history, even if it was a lie that took us to all the overseas wars we've been thrust in for democracy or oil. Remember your neighbors next door who need help today. Remember our culture that attracted our newest neighbors. We do have one. Remember our freedom of speech. Remember our freedom to assemble. And remember our right to criticize our government. It applies to everyone. Today, January 6, 2026, remember your humanity. Everyone you meet today, acknowledge their humanity. Remind your family and friends of what it means to be an American. Remind your fellow Americans of what all this freedom means. That is what we should remember each day we still have a country. Thank you.
Can you say your name and your title, at least, on camera?
Yes, my name is Rafael Macias. I represent Topsom, House District 51.
Sir.
Thank you. I guess I should have led with that, huh?
That's all right. Yeah, it's usually our first question.
Yeah.
Let's clarify. As long as we get it.
I'll do it again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are you taking questions?
Yes.
Do you think your message today is, in the heightened era of kind of political violence, even more important?
Absolutely. There's a lot more that can be said about what's going on. The issues that are happening still today, the issue that happened on Saturday, invading a sovereign country and kidnapping their leader. That's not what we do. But we allowed him to do it. We're still allowing him to do it. Our Congress, our leaders throughout the country, they, write a strongly worded letter, but unless that what is happening are letters of impeachment, then we're not doing all we can do.
Is it your intention to kind of make this an annual thing, continue to stand in front of the press?
The original intent of this bill was to record the words of our congressmen that were there on January 6th. It was taken out of the bill to get it to pass, but it's also not something that the state does. We don't have the resources to do that, and so really it's up to filmmakers out there. Find your congressmen, find your representatives, ask them questions, record what happened that day in their memory, please. And the state historian will accept that. They'll receive it. They will archive it. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Do you want to mention NSP 7?
I'm sorry?
Do you want to mention NSP 7?
I can't,
NSP 7, where any dissenter can be taken.
I still,
Oh,
it-
I'm sorry. NSP 7 makes it so any dissenter can be taken.
oh, I'm not prepared to talk on that. Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Good job, man.
Thank you.